Hello and welcome. When apartheid collapsed in South Africa, hopes grew for a true rainbow nation. But 2 decades on after Nelson Mandela walked out of prison, how real is that dream? Much has changed in South Africa since that historic day and the subsequent election of Mandela as the country's first democratically elected black president. The racial lines that rigidly ruled the lives of South Africans were removed in an effort to give equality and opportunity to all. To help move that along, the Black Economic Empowerment, or BEE policy, began to create a middle class that previously would have been impossible for people of color. But disparities continue to exist, with more than 1 million people living in shacks, facing unemployment of around 30%, and violent crimes rising to unprecedented levels, threatening the security of everyone. It has led people to question whether or not the African National Congress, the ANC, the party of Nelson Mandela, has lived up to its promise and the legacy of its most charismatic figure. As South Africa prepares for this year's Football World Cup, some freedom has brought them little improvement in their daily life. On today's show, we ask what's ahead for South Africa and how does it define freedom and equality? Remember, you can join our conversation with your questions and comments. You can send an SMS or an email and we'll take your phone calls on the show as well. Joining me now from Cape Town in South Africa is Member of Parliament Patricia de Lille, the founder and leader of the opposition Independent Democrat Party. She's been an outspoken advocate for transparency and has fought corruption, most notably with the country's recent arms deal scandal. Also from Cape Town is Bantu Holomisa. He is also a Member of Parliament and the co-founder and president of the United Democratic Movement. He's best known for his involvement with the reintegration of the Transkei region into South Africa. I want to welcome you both to the show, and I know both of you have met just recently with President Zuma. Patricia, if I could start with you first and ask, basically, what confidence do you have that he's got a grip on the way things are going with the country, especially in light of recent scandals?
Yes. You know, South Africa has come through a difficult period in the past 15 years. And, you know, any nation's destiny and future is determined by the people of that nation. We could have done better. We still got a long way to go. But today, it's a day to celebrate the release of the one person that gave us hope, gave this country hope after 350 years of oppression and colonialism, and that we were going to take this country forward. Nelson Mandela came out and he said to all of us that I fought against white domination, I fought against black domination, and he was saying to us that race must not stop us from building a new South Africa.
Bantu Holomisa, President Jacob Zuma has chosen Thursday, the anniversary of the date of the 20th anniversary of Nelson Mandela's release, to give his State of the Nation address in Cape Town. Now, what is it you think that the President needs to say to the people of South Africa?
I think one thing which we need to recognize is that President Zuma inherited a budget which was crafted by President Mbeki and his cabinet. And he is going to have an opportunity for the first time tomorrow to put a flesh on the skeleton he has been presenting to the people from the time they were presenting their manifesto to the people of South Africa. So we expect him, therefore, at least to be more aggressive on state intervention so that he can address the imbalances and backlogs of the past. Unfortunately, President Mbeki tended to be more cautious and also sort of endorse what the World Trade Organization and others are demanding. Yet, countries like USA, France, and China are doling trillions of US dollars in subsidizing their farming community. So we expect, therefore, that Mr. Zuma must, for the first time, present a budget which would address the inequalities, especially, as I've said, the backlogs and imbalances of the past.
Okay. Patricia, Bantu Holomisa is talking about the backlogs and imbalances of the past, and on referring to that, of course, there's the issue of the stark disparity that still exists between black and white people in South Africa 20 years on from that release of Nelson Mandela. What's being done to try to address the continuing imbalance that exists?
It's really an indictment that 15 years into our new democracy and 20 years after the release of Nelson Mandela, that we are still the most unequal society in the world. And that shows too that 20 years after Mandela's release, we must pause and take stock and say, what do we need to change? It is sure that the economic policy has not benefited the majority of South Africans, and that's where we need to start. Because the economy is the heart and soul of any nation. Yes, many things have changed, but a lot could have been done if we were not wasting such a lot of money, if such a lot of politicians were not corrupt. We were able to go and save a lot more money to take away that one sad record that we hold in the world to be the most unequal society.
And yet, Patricia, the black economic empowerment and affirmative action in place, there are many educated white South Africans who are leaving the country. What impact is that having on the society and the economy of South Africa?
The concept of black economic empowerment, there's no problem. You know, we need to redress the imbalances of the past. But unfortunately, it is only the same people that benefited over and over of black economic empowerment. We've got 800 millionaires, we've got a couple of billionaires, black people, but still, you know, that economic benefit has not filtered down to the majority of the poor people in South Africa. So there's nothing wrong with the concept. We need to change the approach and make sure that the people who have benefited already from black economic empowerment, that they don't benefit again.
Okay, Bantu Holomisa, well, I want to put a couple of emails from our viewers to you, please. I'll put two of them back to back. Now, the first one is from Kenya. And Justus Ndungu Tiongo from Kenya says, Mandela did wonders in South Africa. He knew what he was doing. Those who came after him had good intentions but failed to continue his work. Now, the second email that came in from Barnabas Muvuti says, the ANC is like all liberation war movements in Africa. It's turned out to be one of the most corrupt political formations. So that first email suggests there were good intentions that were never realized, but the second one's more cynical and says it's inevitable that the ANC would become corrupt. What's your view?
Well, we need to not to go too far, because President Zuma and the leadership of the ANC have acknowledged this, and they are promising to root out corruption in their civil service. But until such time they stop their policy of deploying people in government positions and also deploying their own cadres in the parastatals, I don't think that corruption will go away. We expect them in future, if they don't want to lose power, to begin to do skills auditing and appoint people on merit. Otherwise, if they continue to deploy their own cadres, then that would be tantamount to promoting an institutionalized corruption. So I fully agree with those who say, after Mr. Mandela, I think our moral compass bearing has faltered. And it's up to the South Africans to do to take a stock of the situation in the country and continue to move forward. We cannot afford to be like other countries which were given independence, and then they were followed later on by coups, on the pretext, under the pretext that they were corrupt. So I hope that President Zuma and his cabinet currently are serious when they say they want to root out corruption. But as long as they endorse this, continue to endorse this deployment policy of theirs, where they put mediocres to head institutions, then I'm afraid we won't develop our country.
Well, Patricia, that's one of the issues that Jacob Zuma himself is so much in the spotlight for issues, I mean, for corruption issues, allegations of rape, fathering children out of wedlock. How can the nation look up to him when he himself contradicts his message of rooting out corruption?
No, corruption steals from the poor people. Corruption is taking away the resources that's meant to deliver services to the poor people. And there's no ways you can deal with corruption about talking about corruption, about talking tough. You know, we've heard enough about talk. The time has now come to walk the talk and to show action. And how we can do that is that those people who are in key positions, people who are in senior positions, if you are caught with your fingers in the till, you must be dealt with. You must be charged, you must be prosecuted and sent to jail, and we need to recover the resources of the state. Until such time that we don't do that with key politicians, we're sending out a wrong message to the rest of South Africans that says it's okay to do crime, it's okay to do corruption. And I'm sincerely hope that the new administration will do something about it, but also South Africans must just not sit back and shout and scream. They must also report corruption.
Right. Patricia, also I want to put to you a couple of emails back to back from viewers here. The first one is from our Facebook page from Ali ibn Abdallah Al-Assaw. And Ali writes in saying, South Africa's government has achieved many things, but they haven't contained the two most critical issues, crime and HIV/AIDS. The second is from South Africa, from Fatima Goga. And Fatima writes in saying, we have some of the richest natural resources, but we have to work really hard at stopping murders, rapes and theft. These things are pulling us down. Now, both of these essentially refer to crime. In a nutshell, what has been the biggest issue in reducing the amount of violent crime that really plagues South Africa?
Yes, certainly I want to agree that we've achieved we've made some progress. More people have got access to water, electricity and sanitation, I know, compared to before 1994. But, you know, unless we deal and we have leadership that can be bold, that are able to lead by example. At the moment, we've got type of leaders that say, don't do as I do, do as I say. And that is the problem. So as leaders, we have to show that we will not be wasting money. We will not be driving BMWs when we can drive a Toyota or another car. And, you know, if that kind of illustration is not clear from the leadership, you know, the people of South Africa will still feel that why can our leaders live like that and we are not able to do the same.
I'm going to get more questions to both of you. We've got to take a very short break here. We'll be back with more of our discussion in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. 20 years after Nelson Mandela's historic walk out of prison, what is the state of South Africa's miracle rainbow nation? Well, struggling with high unemployment, educational disparities, crime and corruption, has the country lived up to the legacy of its most charismatic leader? From Cape Town, I'm joined by members of parliament from the opposition, Patricia de Lille of the Independent Democrat Party and Bantu Holomisa of the United Democratic Movement. I should point out we did approach the African National Congress, but no ANC guest was offered at this time. Let's get back to some questions, and we have a caller on the line from Virginia. Jacques, what would you like to ask?
Yes, thank you very much for taking my call.
Pleasure.
My question is on both people over there, Mr. Zuma and Mr. Bantu and Mrs. Patricia. The country is coming from several years of oppression, and
yes,
so the country is coming from several years of oppression, and with that, their minds has been conditioned. So my question is the following. What is being done from the leadership to be able to assist the grassroots over there in South Africa to be interested in empowering themselves?
All right, Bantu Holomisa, let me put that to you then. What's being done at the grassroots level?
Well, there are programs which we have witnessed, which the government in the last 15 years have started to try to empower the people, but those programs, most of them have been abandoned because of corruption, where local authorities siphon millions of rands as well as the provincial governments. And in fact, today as we speak, there is a big debate about the future of the provincial governments and also how to strengthen the capacity of our local government authorities. One of the things which have been a major enemy to our system here is that we have got good policies, but we lack capacity in implementing policies. Not that we do not have people, but the fact that the ANC government's policy is that they only appoint and employ their own people. If you don't have their membership card, then you are not going to be appointed. Therefore, it affects the implementation of these programs on the ground.
We have Qatar on the line as well. Peter, what would you like to ask?
Good evening. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us.
That's good. I'm an expatriate in Qatar, and I'm a South African. And coming back to Patricia's statement earlier, she talked about you asked the questions about expatriates moving abroad. And my thing is, the reason why I moved over was basically I was living in Gauteng, and in certain parts of that places the crime rate is very high.
Right.
And that was a big problem for me, you know. But the thing is, why? My question is basically, if '94 happened and Nelson Mandela was released, why is there still segregation between black and white people? We want to promote peace between one another, but there are still certain social quarrels. How are we going to be able to abolish that?
Peter, thank you for that question. I'm going to put it to Patricia, and also, Patricia, add to that a question we got from our Facebook page, which also touches on a similar issue. Tokozani Benedict Mashinini has said, most of the promises delivered by the ANC are being established while others are being worked on. With any change in any society, it takes years to change. Is that fair? I mean, listening to what Peter has had to say and the way situation still exists there, is it simply a matter of time, or is it just a lack of will?
Yes, what we need to accept is that, you know, the legacy of apartheid will still be with us for many years. You're not going to erase that legacy in 15 years. So the issue of black and white coming together and the integration of our society will still take some time. It will take another generation to begin that integration. But the question about what can South Africans do for themselves to get them out of the situation. In 1994, when we attained our freedom, a lot of expectations were created. And people thought that by getting the vote and by getting your freedom, you know, everything will just happen overnight. We failed to explain to our people that freedom comes with responsibility. The mistake that's being made by government was, instead of consulting with the people to get them to buy into the idea of uplifting themselves and walking with the government the way forward, they have consulted with consultants. And we spent a lot of money on consultants instead of consulting with the people. So yes, I still have lots of hope for our country. We cannot overturn 350 years of oppression and colonialism in 15 years. But on condition that we get the leaders like Mandela, who can give us hope, who can give us a vision for the next 10 to 20 years. Because the leaders that we have now is very short-sighted, and they are not leading by example. They are hoping, you know, people must just follow them. And instead of giving leadership, and that is where we need to improve as a country. Right. And that include opposition party leaders too, because we lack leadership in the country. Okay, now Bantu Holomisa, the thing is, you have such a beautiful country, such diversity, incredible potential, and yet sometimes for those watching from outside, strange things, you know, come up which a lot of people can't understand. There were a lot of people saying that President Thabo Mbeki's policy of refusing to acknowledge AIDS led to the death of early deaths of more than 330,000 South Africans. Considering Jacob Zuma's no safe-sex policy, how does the new government deal with the issue of HIV/AIDS, which obviously is a serious issue for South Africa?
Well, as far as Parliament is concerned, we did embrace the need to roll out many programs to save the lives of the people. And the proof of that is when we approved billions of rands in budgeting. However, it looks as though the civil servants, on the other hand, or the executive, dragged their feet. Otherwise, South African government have spent billions and billions of rands which were approved in Parliament. But when it comes to education and creating awareness, unfortunately, the late Minister of Health, Mantos Shabalala, tended to come up with other contradictory statements. Not that the country itself and its government, and Parliament didn't do something to assist the needy. But we also had towards the end of last year, once more, when Mr. Zuma, the president of our country, emphasizing the need to assist people and improve the infrastructure, especially in rural areas, and to buy more new equipment in order to test the people. So we are still waiting to hear from him to report tomorrow as to how far has he gone in implementing that and how much will he now be setting aside. I think South Africans and the present government, all of us are saying, let us campaign against this.
Okay, we have so many questions, of course, and never enough time. We didn't even get to talk about the World Cup. I wish you both luck with that, and hope to speak with you again. Thank you for joining us on the show. Thank you for being with us too. Now remember, you can watch a podcast of the show on iTunes. This week we're featuring my discussion with the UK Foreign Minister David Miliband and Her Majesty Queen Rania of Jordan on prospects for peace in the Middle East. On the next show, Iran marks the 31st anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. We'll examine the state of affairs in the country with a man who has a unique perspective, Reza Pahlavi, the heir to the dynasty that ruled Iran until the Shah was toppled in 1979. Be sure to tune in for that. From me and the team, we'll see you next time.